This chess puzzle is 130 years old. It was composed in the 1890s. And I have a simple question for you. Who wins? White's pawns are going forward in this direction. Obviously, white has the bishop over there in the corner, but black has a rook. If you would like to pause before I say anything else, who do you think wins and why? It's white to play. All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, the answer is white does indeed win the game, but it is not easy, and it's probably not the way that you expect. All right, so let's talk about what's happening here. First of all, if you just try to take the pawn, thinking, okay, I've got a discovered check on the king. After the king moves, now I'll push my pawn and I'll try to get a queen. Black has a very simple solution. Rook here, going after your pawns, or also, rook h6, forking these guys, grabbing this one, and then they will simply sacrifice their rook for the pawn, and the game will be a draw. Okay? So that's why just capturing the pawn doesn't work. The other thing that you might have considered was, what if I run with my king immediately trying to help out? The problem with this is that black can simply take, and if you ever push this pawn forward, he's just going to sacrifice his rook. Even if he loses his rook, he doesn't care. You can't win with only a bishop. You have to have a pawn to get a queen somehow, okay? Now, there's one more thing that you need to know before I go any further here that's very helpful in understanding this puzzle, and just in general, it's good to know. So let me switch over. This is a different position here, okay? If you ever have two pawns on the 6th rank or further that are connected, so next to each other, side by side, they're always going to beat a rook. Now, I say always, as long as there's nothing else going on, like black's king is standing right in front of them, that's a different story, or there's other pieces helping the rook or something like that. But if it's just a rook, and it's just two pawns on the 6th rank or further, they're always going to win. As an example, if the rook tries to attack them, you simply push one. Yes, you lose one, but the other guy becomes a queen. And let's say black instead tries to go back this way. You just push them. If he tries to blockade, you just push them. He has to make the decision of which pawn he's going to let become a queen. Okay, there's nothing that black can do about that. So that's just helpful to keep in the back of your mind as we go through the rest of this puzzle. Okay? So we talked about capturing. We talked about moving the king. The correct move for white to win the game is e6, and it is a check. Okay, it unleashes the bishop, and black has to move the king. So black plays king to a2. And what move should you play here as white? All right, if you had a chance to look at that, hopefully you didn't say e7 trying to get a queen, because there's a reason this doesn't work. And here's the reason. Rook to a8 stops the queen, also attacks your bishop. And if you just kind of casually move your bishop somewhere like bishop f6, black's going to simply do this. Actually, where's the line at here? Sorry. If you casually do this, they're just going to simply move their rook. Like this, run with the king, something like this. And you have no way to make progress. They can basically just go back and forth. There's nothing for you to do. Okay? The only way to try to get tricky in this situation would be to move your bishop to e5. And the reason we're doing this goes back to what I just told you. If you can ever get two pawns on the 6th rank or further, which we have here, so one's on the 6th, one on 7, you're going to beat the rook. And black has no way to stop you from next move pushing this and getting a queen. This guy's too slow, king's too far, and this doesn't help. All right, I already talked about this. You can go here, get the queen, and you win. Okay? So this is the idea of what we can do, bishop to e5. So you say, well, isn't that winning for white? No, because look what black's going to do. King to b3. They're getting ready to come here and take this guy. So we have to take. And then they don't go hunting right away. They throw in a check. And you're going to see why that's so critical. They throw in a check, and then they go hunt our pawn. And even if we attack their rook, they can go check and then take our pawn. And if we ever are able to push this, they're going to just sack, and they're just going to move here, and there's nothing we can do. Okay? So why did they have to go check? What's the deal with the check? Watch this. If they don't go check and they instead immediately go for our pawn, we have a killer move here as white. If you would like to pause, this is an amazing move. All right, if you had a chance to look at that, the move is bishop to b8. Sacrificing the bishop for free And by the way, this is the second time we've sacrificed it in this line that I've showed you. Earlier, we sacrificed it to the pawn. Now we sacrifice it to the rook. And the point is, if they take, we've cleared the way for the pawn. It escapes the king. And here we go. Two pawns on the 6th rank or further. The rook can't stop it. We're going to win. Okay. So by throwing in the check first and then going here, we have no way to block off the rook. Right, we can't move there. So the rook continues to guard that, gives the king time to take our pawn. Okay, and the little in-between attack doesn't do anything because there's a check. And then you can still take it, okay? So, just to recap, all we've looked at so far is going all the way back here to what happens if you immediately push the pawn. Okay, so like in this position here after the king moves, if you push the pawn, that's what's going to happen. Rook to a8, and then all the stuff that we just looked at. So because of that, the best move for white is to immediately sacrifice the bishop again. Bishop to e5. And why would we do that? Well, if they take the bishop, what happens? You guys see the winning move? Well, you might be tempted to say, 2 pawns on the 6th rank, this is winning, right? Well, no, because the rook can immediately capture one, so it's not quite the same story, and then they can capture this, okay? But it's a similar idea in that we push this one to the 7th rank. The rook can't go here to stop it, because this guy has to come back, and now we get them on the 6th rank. Next move, we go to the 7th, and we win. Okay, so it was a little bit tricky on how to actually get there, but we end up with the same position where we're going to win. But wait a second. Black is not out of tricks yet. So going back here, we sacrifice the bishop. And black, seeing what's going to happen, right, this move, says, okay, I just won't take the bishop. And I'll just move my king and use my king to hunt this down. Now, what are you going to do if you're playing as white? You'd like to pause. All right, if you had a chance to look at that, the move is bishop takes d6. Now, if you don't take that and you try e7, black's going to come down, and this is basically what we've seen before, right? When you take here, they throw in that check. Remember that? It's the exact same line, okay? And then they're going to run their king over, and they get a draw. So what do we do instead? Well, we take the pawn. And again, they can't take our bishop because e7. And look at this. You can't go there. You can't go there. You have no way to stop us from getting a queen next move. Okay? And by the way, queen against rook is a win for the queen. It's very difficult. It takes a long time, but it's a win. Okay? So, let's see. If black doesn't want to take, what do they do instead? Well, king to c4, hunting down our pawn. So they're basically saying, look, I'm going to take this with my king, and whenever you try to push this to become a queen, well, then I'll use my rook to go stop it. And there's nothing that you can really do about that. So, that's black's idea. What do we do as white? All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, we have to play the move e7. And we're threatening to get the queen. So, of course, black has to stop us. And actually, black has 2 ways to do that. One would be rook to a8, right? That's the kind of the obvious way. They also could go check, and then when we move somewhere, come over to e2 and stop the pawn this way, okay? So same thing, black's plan didn't really change. The king's going to take this pawn. The rook's going to stop this pawn, either from behind like this, or by going immediately to a8. Now, in this case, when they check first and then swing over, we have an amazing move. White to play and win. What's the move in this position? All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, obviously the rook's the problem, right? We want to get a queen, but we can't. So how do we get rid of the rook? Bishop to e5 blocks the rook. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Nelson, the rook just takes the bishop, and we have the same problem, and now we're missing a bishop. But wait, we've cleared the way for this guy, and look what we've now accomplished. 2 pawns on the 6th rank or further, and the king is too far, because now we go d7. You can take this, but we get the queen. There's nothing else really that black can do. You could also, try to go check and come around. Doesn't matter. We still are going to win. Amazing, right? You sack the bishop to force the rook to take, but at the same time, you open up the square. Now, remember I said what black had another option. Instead of coming down here, check, and blocking from behind, they could also just go rook to a8. And now what do we do? you had a chance to look at that. The move is bishop to b8. It's the same idea, but it's happening from a different direction. Over here, depending on where the rook is. It doesn't really matter. It's the same idea. It clears the way for the d6 pawn. They have to take, or we just get the queen. But here we go again. 2 pawns on the 6th rank, or further, 6th and 7th rank. The rook can't stop it. The king's too far, and we win. So just to recap, the way that you win this position is by pushing forward with the discovered check on the king, sacrificing the bishop one time here to the pawn, sacrificing it another time here to the rook. That's 2 sacrifices. And then sacrificing it a third time either here or here, depending on where the rook was at. And in all those cases, whenever it gets sacrificed, it leads to a winning pawn against rook ending. That's pretty cool when you think about it, right? That's pretty cool. I don't think most people would have even thought about that from this position. I hope you guys can appreciate that 130-year-old chess puzzle. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to download my free middle game guide. I just created it recently. It's like super in-depth. Spent a lot of time putting it together. Some beginner level, intermediate, more advanced stuff, tips for the middle game. Definitely check that out. And links in the description. I'll see you guys next time. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.